just want to give a brief account of what happened the day that we went with the mothers of the bereaved mothers to the police headquarters. Actually, they were going there to give a petition. And because the IG was not there, a representative of the IG received the mothers as well as some of us who had been part and parcel of the demonstrations of the 90s. And I remember Gitobu saying that a time comes when people have to come back from semi-retirement or even retirement when they realize that their country is going south. And therefore, the support that we offered those mothers was to help them go to the police headquarters to give their petition, where they were decrying what had happened and what corrective measures they thought would be carried out. And in terms of giving the notice for demonstration June 25th, they were advised that that has to be done at Central Police Station, not at the headquarters. And they asked that Central Police would not say no when they took when they went there to give the letter stating that on the 25th there would be constitutional protests. And I remember Caleb very vividly saying that when there were demonstrations in Mombasa, whoever was in charge called the leaders, whoever was the leaders now, mostly civil society people and bereaved people, said, we must sit together and organize how this thing will be done so that it is peaceful. And therefore, they clearly said, this is where we will be from this time and so on. And according to Caleb, during that particular period, when there was a sit down of the police as well as the organizers of the protests, and there was agreement about exactly what was going to be done, those demonstrations were peaceful. And it's only instances, Caleb said very clearly, when the police themselves begin, tear gassing people and all that kind of stuff, that is when the demonstrations now take another turn. Meaning, if those who are organizing demonstrations and the police sit together and they plot how it is going to be done, then there shouldn't be any problems whatsoever, because Article 37, not even Article 37, from Article 19, Article 37, Article 38 of the Constitution, and of course, what I think was also mentioned about 24, the limitations, which also must be by limitations by ordinary law, which cannot again overturn the Constitution. So I think, having said that, it is clear that if there is, if the police get a signal from the political, from the government, the executive rather, that demonstrations must be done in a way to have a sit down to say exactly how they'll be done, so that there is actually more of commemoration than demonstrating in the ordinary sense like what happened 2024 and before. I also want to emphasize, in 1997, when civil society, when the young people, particularly the universities, when young people in people's settlements had pushed more into the wall, the politicians then joined KANU in parliament and were able to diffuse that push for constitution making, the push for actually changes to ensure that even by in the 90s we got a constitution. And so even after that, there was always a bad taste in the mouth between politicians and civil society. But whatever is done now, it is absolutely essential that what the young people are asking for is not aborted by like a broad-based something, a broad-based round two or whatever it is. Because the young people who are wearing the shoe and they know where it pinches would really like Kenya to change in a way so that they are accommodated. And therefore, all the people who want to change Kenya must also know that they must not let the young people down. They must work towards and fight for real change. What the young people are saying, we want the constitution to be implemented. We don't want corruption. We want rule of law and all that. And that to be said and to be demonstrated in earnest. I could ask Alionia when she says that people should not, the politicians should not take over what the Gen Zs are doing. Let the Gen Zs do it alone and all that. But she's now in ODM leader ground. So she's again in a political outfit. And she's saying that young people should not work with the politicians. So there's a contradiction there. And maybe Leonia can, at some point, tell us whether she sees that contradiction or not. And most critically, young people now are saying that they want to be in those spaces. They want to be in county assemblies. They want to be National Assembly. They want to be in Senate. They want to begin to actually prepare for a real succession. Therefore, whenever they go in a political party, because they are not able to form theirs, since it's not very easy to do that, so you cannot deny them going into political parties unless you tell them you cannot be independent. So again, we must therefore be, we must really be practical so that we don't block them, and in actual fact, like I have been wanting to run a program where I offer to teach young people who are under 35 who want to pursue electoral positions, whichever party they are from, just the A to Z of how do you do that, from when you declare, when you want, up to when after the election, the day after the election. So I think we need to be sensitive to that. Now, even this idea of the young people whom we say are banning schools and are doing those crazy things, we must also ask ourselves, what is that? What is wrong with the educational system? Why are these alphas and some of them are Gen Zs? Is it still a dissatisfaction with what they see happening, how they don't see their future? We must, in actual fact, Debal, this is something that you should, if it hasn't happened before, you should have a specific conversation on, what is the state of our education, the state of the universities, and so on, and why are young kids, doing these things that perhaps long ago would not be done. So for me, because we were part of fighting for the constitution, those days in the 90s, I was a spokesperson of the pro-democracy movement through NCA, NCC. What we fought for, when we see that there's a deviation, a serious deviation, we cannot just stay away. And we said that, yes, Gen Zs, we applaud them. They are the majority. it's their future which is more crucial than ours. But what they began and what they are continuing with must be supported by Gen Zote. That is something that I think we agreed. And this question of, for example, characterizing some people as planners, organizers, funders, this is the old tool book where, you know, you see that there is people who are genuinely, the young people, the mothers, they are genuinely, you know, wanting to remember. Because even when any of us here loses a relative and you put something in the Nation or in the Standard or whatever, you can't be told that you are reminding people of somebody who died a long time ago. Why are you doing that? There is also a right to mourn. And you mourn until you die, you know, because that's the nature of human beings. And when I saw those mothers, even this money, actually they're emphasizing more of the justice. And even I heard them very plainly because they were doing a lot of the talking, even within the police headquarters. You know, they said, okay, they know that their children have been killed or whatever has happened to them. And this compensation is not like it's the life that is being compensated. They were saying that justice is first. And it is even sad that even as this compensation is coming as some sort of public apology or whatever, that others are still being killed and they are being, you know, abducted, and they are being, you know, the playbook of Uganda, you know, Tanzania in the region. So even as people eloquently talk about compensation and all that kind of stuff, and saying, you know, let's do the Truth, Justice, Reconciliation Commission, I really hope that no more blood will be shed in this commemoration. Whether these young people are doing a vigil with candles, whether, you know, as some of them are saying, they want a dialogue with the police at every, you know, every county to understand what does automation for water mean. Even as they go to places of worship, you know, to remember, you know, and so on and so forth. So this is bigger, and our country is not going to heal. I think somebody talked about national healing. What is happening is very superficial, and that is not how national healing, like happened a bit in South Africa after apartheid. Actually, we have never had a real serious national dialogue, and I hope, you know, during my lifetime, I will see a different Kenya. I yield.